I thought I had the perfect marriage. My husband, Ryan, was kind, attentive, and successful. When he left for a business trip, I missed him, until I found something in my best friend Jessica's purse that shattered my world. His credit card, still warm from use, with charges that made no sense. And suddenly, every moment from the last year began to feel like a lie. Please stay with me as I tell you my story. And please do not forget to support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your loved ones. Ryan had left 4 days ago. He packed his bags, kissed my forehead, and told me not to wait up. Said he'd be busy with meetings and late nights. I believed him because that's what trust looks like when you think your marriage is strong. I even sent him off with a packed lunch and a goodbye smile. That smile didn't last long. Jessica came over the next evening. We've been best friends since college. She brought wine, like she always does, and we talked about life, work, and all the usual things. She laughed more than usual, leaned back on the couch like she owned the place, and asked a little too many questions about Ryan's trip. I didn't think much of it at the time. She got up to use the bathroom and left her purse on the table. It was slightly open. Something caught my eye. A blue card sticking out just enough for me to see the name printed on it. Ryan's credit card. I reached for it slowly, heart already starting to race. It was the exact one he always carried in his wallet, the one he never let me use, not even once. I stared at it like it was something dangerous, something that shouldn't be there. When Jessica came back, I held it up and asked, "Why do you have Ryan's card?" Jessica didn't act surprised when I showed her the card. She just laughed a little, like I was overreacting. She said Ryan gave it to her to get something for me, something I'd really like. I asked her what exactly she was buying, but she kept it vague. She mentioned maybe a necklace or something for the house, nothing specific. I stared at her, trying to understand what she was hiding. Her smile looked forced. She avoided eye contact and suddenly seemed in a rush to leave. I didn't stop her. I just nodded and said we'd talk later. As soon as she walked out the door, I opened my laptop. I pulled up our credit card account and looked closer at the recent activity. There was a charge from a hotel nearby, 3 nights in a row. I'd never stayed there. There was also a payment to a spa I didn't recognize and a purchase from a high-end jewelry store. It didn't make sense. If this was all meant for me, why hadn't I seen any of it? I checked the dates. All the charges were from the last few days, after Ryan had already left for his so-called trip. I scrolled back further, and more little things jumped out. A candle store, a lingerie boutique, an expensive wine shop. I hadn't received any of it. Nothing had been brought home. Nothing been gifted. I was getting nervous. I sent Ryan a text, asking if he had a minute to talk. No reply. I waited an hour, then tried calling. It went straight to voicemail. I called again later that night. Still nothing. I told myself maybe he was in a meeting. Maybe the signal was bad. Maybe he forgot his charger. But as the hours passed, it got harder to believe any of that. The next morning, I called the hotel listed on the statement. I told them I was checking on a reservation made under my husband's name. The woman on the phone paused for a second, then said yes, he had been staying there. She confirmed the dates. When I asked if he was still checked in, she said no. He'd left just that morning. I thanked her and hung up, my hands shaking. Why was he there if he was supposed to be in another city? Why wasn't he answering me? And why was Jessica involved? That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through everything in my head. I wasn't just upset. I was starting to feel afraid. Something was wrong. And deep down, I knew I was only scratching the surface. I couldn't stop thinking. My mind kept going in circles, pulling up things I hadn't thought about in months. I started remembering little moments, small things that didn't seem important back then, but now felt strange. I remembered the nights Jessica stayed over after we drank too much wine. She always said she was too tired to drive, or it was too late. I used to think it was sweet, how comfortable she was in our home. Now, it felt different. One night, she cried on the couch after a breakup with a guy I never even met. She stayed the whole weekend. At the time, I thought she just needed support, but Ryan was home that weekend too. I remember how quiet he was around her. At first, I thought he was just giving us space, but maybe that wasn't it. There was another moment that came rushing back. It was during a dinner at our place. Jessica was telling some story and suddenly called Ryan babe. It slipped out so fast, but I heard it. She laughed, made a joke about how weird it sounded and blamed the wine. I laughed too. I didn't want to make it awkward, but Ryan didn't laugh. He just looked at her, then at me, and quickly changed the subject. Looking back, I don't know why I didn't question it more. Maybe I didn't want to. Maybe I trusted too much. There was also a time she showed up uninvited when Ryan and I were having a quiet evening. She said she had a panic attack and needed to see someone familiar. She looked shaky, emotional. I told her to stay the night. Ryan didn't say much. He just poured her a drink. Even the way she used to compliment him felt off now. She'd say things like, "You're so lucky he cooks," or, "If only I could find someone like Ryan." I used to laugh it off, thinking she was just being playful. I never thought she meant more by it. Now all those memories burned in my mind. They weren't small anymore. They weren't innocent. They were signs I didn't see. Or maybe I did see them, but didn't want to believe what they meant. I trusted them both. I let them into every part of my life. And now, every laugh, every shared look, every casual moment felt like part of a game I didn't know I was in. I needed answers, not just guesses. I couldn't keep sitting at home, staring at the ceiling, wondering what was true. So I drove to the hotel listed on the credit card. It was a nice place, not the kind of hotel you stay in for work, unless your company's paying a lot. The lobby was quiet, soft music played, and everything smelled like expensive candles. I walked up to the front desk and tried to stay calm. The woman working there smiled and asked how she could help. I told her I was trying to confirm a stay under my husband's name. I gave her Ryan's full name and said I believed there was a mistake on our credit card. I expected her to turn me away. Instead, she looked it up. "Yes," she said. "He checked in for 3 nights and checked out recently." That was all she said at first. My chest tightened. I asked if she could print a receipt for me. She hesitated, looked around, and lowered her voice. "He was listed as staying alone," she said quietly, like she wasn't sure if she should be saying anything more. Then, after a pause, she pulled out a small slip of paper. "This was left behind with room service." She passed it across the counter like she was handing me something forbidden. It was a receipt from the second night of his stay. 2 dinners, 1 dessert, a bottle of red wine. I scanned it quickly. The total didn't matter. What did was the name scribbled at the bottom. It wasn't Ryan's signature. It wasn't even close. It was Jessica's last name. Sloppy handwriting, but I knew it. I had seen her sign checks and papers 100 times. I stood there, holding the paper, trying to breathe. The room felt smaller. My hands were starting to shake. "She must have signed for it," the woman said softly, watching my face. "It was delivered to the room." I nodded, not saying much. I folded the receipt and slipped it into my bag. I walked out slowly, trying not to let my legs give out beneath me. I got into my car and just sat there staring at the wheel. I didn't cry, not yet. I was too numb. That paper confirmed what I had tried not to believe. She wasn't just involved, she was with him, in that room, eating dinner, drinking wine, signing for it like it was nothing, like it was normal. Jessica came over again a few days later. She acted like nothing had happened. We opened a bottle of wine, watched a movie, and talked about nothing important. I pretended to be fine. I laughed when she joked, nodded when she spoke, and kept my feelings hidden. I wanted to see how far she would go with the lie. Later that night, she said she was too tired to drive and asked if she could stay over. I agreed. She fell asleep quickly on the couch, and I went to bed pretending everything was normal. The next morning, she left in a hurry, saying she had a work meeting. After she left, I noticed her phone sitting on the side table. She'd forgotten it. I stared at it for a long time. I knew opening it wasn't right, but something in me pushed forward. I needed to know the truth, fully. I picked it up, and to my surprise, there was no lock screen. She hadn't set a password. I opened her photo gallery. My hands were cold, and my chest felt tight. I scrolled through selfies, pictures of food, random shots from her day. Then I saw them. Mirror selfies taken in a hotel bathroom. The same kind of towels I had seen at the hotel when I visited. The tiles matched. The counter was familiar. Behind her in the reflection, I saw a silver watch resting on the sink. It was Ryan's. I knew that watch. I had bought it for him last Christmas. He wore it every day. It had a small scratch on the side. There was no doubt in my mind it was his. I sat down, trying to stay calm, and opened her messages. Some conversations were gone, clearly deleted, but not all. I found one with a contact saved only with a heart emoji. I opened it. The messages were short but clear. "Miss you already? Same sweet next month?" I can't stop thinking about that night. My heart sank. I closed the phone, and placed it back exactly where I found it. When she came back later to pick it up, I said nothing. She smiled and thanked me. I just nodded. But now I had what I needed. I didn't have to wonder anymore. I didn't have to ask questions or search for more signs. I had the truth, and it was worse than I imagined. She was with him, not once, not by mistake. It was planned, ongoing. They weren't sorry. They weren't hiding. They were just confident I'd never find out. After everything I saw, I didn't say a word to Jessica. I didn't send Ryan a single angry message. I acted like I didn't know anything. It was hard, but I stayed calm. I smiled when I saw her. I sent Ryan casual texts like I always did. I told myself to wait. I needed to think clearly. The first thing I did was forward all the photos and messages from Jessica's phone to my email. I saved them in a folder with a name that wouldn't draw attention. I made copies. I kept backups. I wasn't going to risk losing them. Then I opened a new bank account, one Ryan didn't know about. I moved a small amount of money into it, just enough to start. I also started keeping track of everything I spent and everything I took from our joint account. I wanted everything to be clean, organized, and ready for later. I found a lawyer the same week. I didn't tell anyone, not friends, not family. I looked through reviews, found someone experienced, and booked a quiet appointment. When I sat down in her office, I explained everything. I showed her the photos, the texts, the hotel receipt. She listened carefully, asked questions, and nodded. She told me to wait. She said the more proof I had, the better. The longer they didn't know I was watching, the stronger my case would be. That was fine with me. I wasn't in a hurry. I wanted this done right. At home, I started paying closer attention to Jessica and Ryan. I watched how they acted when they didn't know I was looking. I noticed little things. Ryan smiled at his phone more. Jessica started coming over without warning again. Sometimes she even showed up when I wasn't expecting anyone. I let her in every time. I started writing things down. Dates, times, what they said, what they did. I even took photos of the small moments. Her coat hanging by the door, his shoes moved from their usual spot. Everything went into a private folder. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was focused. I wanted her to know I wasn't stupid. I wanted him to realize he lost something real. But most of all, I wanted to be ready. They thought I was still in the dark. They smiled in front of me, shared private looks, and thought I was too naive to see it. Let them think that, for now. I wanted to see what she would do if she thought I still trusted her. So I sent her a message, asking if she wanted to come over for dinner. I said I missed our usual nights and needed someone to talk to. She replied right away, saying she'd love to. She even offered to bring dessert like she used to. That night, I made everything look normal. I set the table, lit a candle, and played soft music in the background. When she arrived, she acted sweet and cheerful. I welcomed her with a smile and hugged her like nothing had changed. We sat down, ate slowly, and talked about random things. I didn't bring up anything serious at first. Then, as we were finishing dinner, I told her I was worried about Ryan. I said he seemed cold lately, that I felt like he was pulling away from me. Her face changed. She tried to look concerned, but something in her eyes gave her away. It was small, just a flicker, but I saw it, like she knew something I didn't, like she was proud of it. She reached over and squeezed my hand, said I was just overthinking, that maybe he was just stressed. She smiled and spoke softly, like she cared. I nodded and pretended to believe her, but inside, I was watching every word, every move. Earlier that day, I had placed a small camera in the corner of my bedroom. It was hidden between a few books on the shelf. I made sure it pointed at the dresser where Ryan kept his things. I also made sure the bedroom door was open, just enough for someone curious to slip in. After dinner, I told Jessica I was going to grab the wine opener from the kitchen. I left her alone in the living room for just a minute. When I returned, she was back on the couch, acting like she hadn't moved. She didn't say anything about going into the bedroom, but later that night after she left, I checked the footage. There she was. She walked into the room quietly, glanced around, then opened Ryan's top drawer. She picked up his cologne, sprayed it once on her wrist, smiled, then carefully placed it back. She stood there for a moment, like she was remembering something. Then she left the room like nothing happened. That was the moment I stopped feeling sorry. Now I was sure. Everything I needed was falling into place. Ryan came home just after noon on Sunday. I heard his car pull into the driveway. I stood at the window, calm on the outside, but my hands were cold. He walked in with a bright smile and a bouquet of flowers. The kind I liked, the same ones he brought after every trip. He leaned in and kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. He asked how I'd been. I said I missed him. He looked relaxed, maybe even proud of himself. He started telling me about his trip, how busy it was, how late the meetings ran. He mentioned a presentation he gave on the second day, said it went well. I nodded along. I didn't ask too many questions. I just let him talk. But there was no presentation. I knew that. I had already checked the company's schedule online. There had been no event, no conference, nothing connected to his work that. He sat down on the couch and stretched, said he needed a nap. I told him to rest, that I'd make something special for dinner. I watched him disappear into the bedroom, still acting like a perfect husband. The next morning, I invited Jessica over. I told her Ryan was back, and we were planning a little brunch. She showed up dressed nice, like she wanted to impress someone. She brought pastries and smiled as she stepped inside. She gave Ryan a hug that lasted too long. He smiled back. I watched both of them. They acted polite, friendly, like nothing had ever happened between them. They kept their distance just enough to avoid suspicion, but not enough to fool me. We sat around the table, eating eggs and toast, sipping juice and coffee. I kept the conversation light. I asked Ryan more about his trip. He repeated the same story. He didn't notice how carefully I was listening. Jessica jumped in with jokes and stories, laughing like she always did. She said it was good to see Ryan again. She called me lucky. I smiled and agreed. They were both talking, laughing, pretending. I let them. I gave them space to feel safe. Inside, I wasn't angry anymore. I was calm. I had everything I needed. I had proof. I had a plan. And now, I had them both back in the same room. The more they talked, the more obvious it became. They weren't careful. They thought they had fooled me. They had no idea what was coming. I told everyone I was planning a surprise birthday party. It wasn't anyone's real birthday, but I said it was just a fun excuse to get our closest friends together. I invited the people who had known us for years, friends who had seen Ryan and me grow as a couple, and people who knew Jessica as someone I trusted. I decorated the house, ordered food, and set up everything like it was going to be a warm, happy gathering. Everyone showed up on time. They brought gifts. Not knowing what was really going to happen, I greeted them with smiles and hugs, thanking them for coming. Ryan stood beside me, relaxed, greeting people like nothing was wrong. Jessica came in later, cheerful as always, acting like this was just another casual get-together. After everyone had eaten and laughed and settled in, I told them I had something special to show. I said I'd put together a little video, a mix of memories from the past year. People clapped, and I walked over to the TV to press play. The room went quiet as the screen lit up. At first, I showed short clips from family dinners, vacations, and happy times, just enough to draw them in. Then the video changed. A still image came up, Ryan's credit card, then a receipt from the hotel, a picture of Jessica's signature. Silence filled the room. Next, the screen showed her selfies from the hotel bathroom, then the messages. The "miss you already" and "same sweet next month." And finally, the video from the hidden camera. Jessica in our bedroom, opening his drawer, touching his things. No one said a word. Jessica stood frozen, her face turned red, then pale. She looked around the room, her hands shaking. Then she turned and walked out without a word, not even an excuse. Ryan stood up slowly, his face blank. He looked at me like he didn't know who I was. He said my name once, quiet, like he didn't know what to say. I didn't let him speak again. I pulled out a folder from behind the couch and handed it to him. Divorce papers. All signed, all ready. I said nothing else. Gasps filled the room as people looked at each other, shocked. Some had tears in their eyes. Some looked angry, but I just smiled. Not a bitter smile, just peace. I had done what I came to do, and I didn't need to say another word. It's been a few months since everything happened. I moved into a small but cozy apartment in Austin, Texas. The neighborhood is quiet, with tree-lined streets and a little cafe on the corner where I go most mornings. It's peaceful here. No more secrets, no more tension, just space to breathe. My small business has started to grow again. I've been putting in the work, slowly rebuilding everything piece by piece. I've gained a few new clients from Dallas, and even one from San Diego. Each day feels steady. I wake up, make coffee, and start the day without feeling trapped. Jessica tried messaging me one time. She said she wanted to talk, said she was sorry. I didn't respond. There was nothing she could say that would matter now. Ryan never reached out, not once. I guess even he knew it was over before I made it official. But I've heard things. Jessica lost her job after everything came out. It didn't take long for people to find out what she did. The company she worked for in Los Angeles let her go quietly. Ryan's divorce cost him more than he expected. Half his assets gone. His reputation took a hit. He looked successful on the outside, but everyone started seeing who he really was. I didn't go after them. I didn't raise my voice or try to ruin their lives. I just walked away with the truth in my hands. Now, I have peace. I walk by the lake in Austin, visit the farmer's market on weekends, and spend time with people who make me feel seen. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurt. They lost someone who was real. I found someone stronger, me. Do you think I did the right thing by exposing the truth the way I did? Or should I have handled it more privately? I'd love to know what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if stories like this interest you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new video.